like Peter Parker is supposed to be the super, super, super smart kid in the MCU. He's given everything. Like he's given all this technology.
But
And
I mean,
I hate it.
yeah, we can go on a whole tangent about that, but we're not. But Spider-Man in the MCU just lacks so much heart.
Yeah. He's literally, and I've been saying this for years, and I don't care how many times I get hate over this because it's true. He's literally black. He's literally whitewashed Miles Morales. It's funny. He's the whitewashed version of a black character.
Exactly, he
He's
is.
whitewashed Miles Morales with like a third of the personality, or it makes him unique.
He is 100% whitewashed Miles Morales. Because literally everything about his character is Miles Morales. He got into this school for like gifted students. He has a Asian friend. Actually, I think
Ned is literally Genki. Ned is literally Genki.
Ned is like a Pacific Islander, but still, he has his Asian friend, this chubby Asian friend. He's literally just took everything that made Miles Morales and made it. You know what would have been? I almost cussed. You know what would have been really freaking cool? You know what would have been really freaking cool in the MCU because it's already very different from the comics. Peter Parker never existed, and Miles was the only Spider-Man. I think that would actually been a really interesting change.
That would have been interesting.
Like instead of the Spider-Man that we have right now, he essentially being Miles but white. Imagine if we just never got Peter, and the first and only Spider-Man that we got in this universe was Miles.
That would have been clean.
That would have been really cool. I'm kind of mad.
I've actually thought about that.
That didn't happen.
Wait, what'd you say?
I'm kind of mad that didn't happen now because that could have been really cool.
I've thought about that a lot actually. What I would rather have them have done, simply for the fact that Peter's like a big part of Miles' like history and like even like part of like Miles' like what I would have preferred they'd done because, and we've talked about this before. You've agreed a bit. This random number is calling me. You've agreed with me a little bit on this before. The Amazing Spider-Man movies felt like they were about to be in the MCU. Like it felt like they were like one small tie-in or mention away from being like an official part of MCU canon. If they had just kept Andrew or kept the Amazing Spider-Man movies canon and like put that in the MCU, the first Spider-Man we could have had would have been Miles.
Yeah, is there any point in either of those movies where they are specific about what year it is?
No, there's not.
Because if there isn't, they could have just made the excuse that everything that happened with Spider-Man happened like before the first Avengers movie.
I would have said would have happened after the first Avengers movie and just kept because it's so like small scale.
Yeah, after the first Avengers, but before the second. And like
before the second of before Age of Ultron, but after the first one is where like the first movie should have been set. And like really like I've been every time I go and rewatch those movies, because you know those are my favorite Spider-Man movies. I don't care what anybody says about them. I will like go fight anybody in a Denny's parking lot over there.
Yeah, I definitely Denny's parking.
Those are like my favorite Spider-Man movies.
I think they're really good.
They not like they're perfectly fine standing on their own, but every single time I watch them, I think harder. These were meant to be in the MCU. Like these were meant to be MCU movies. And so just like having Miles appear, he would have been our first on-screen MCU technically Spider-Man.